The first thing Claire Bennett noticed that morning was how quiet the house felt. Not the peaceful kind of quiet people talk about, but the heavy kind that presses against your chest and reminds you of everything that is missing. The clock in the kitchen ticked too loud. The coffee tasted wrong. Outside, the garden waited, wild and neglected, like it had been holding its breath for years. Claire stood at the back window of her small Oregon home, staring at the yard. Once, this garden had been her pride. On summer evenings, it had been full of laughter, soft music, and warm conversations. Now it was just weeds, crooked rose bushes, and memories she didn't always want to face. At 46, Claire was learning how to live a life she never planned for. Her husband, Mark, had been gone for 3 years. Not suddenly, not loudly, just quietly, like a door closing without a sound. Since then, Claire had focused on surviving, not rebuilding. Work, sleep, repeat. Feelings stayed locked away. Where? They couldn't surprise her. That morning, though, something felt different. Maybe it was the sunlight breaking through the clouds, or maybe it was the simple thought that she was tired of letting everything fall apart. She grabbed her gloves and stepped outside. The air was cool, the kind Americans love in early spring. Birds moved freely between fences, unaware of the human stories below them. Claire knelt near the rose bushes and started pulling weeds, her hands stiff, her movements unsure. It felt awkward, like trying to remember a language she hadn't spoken in years. After 10 minutes, her back hurt. After 20, she felt frustrated. After 30, she considered going back inside and pretending she had tried. That was when she heard a voice. Mrs. Bennett. Sorry to interrupt. Claire froze. No one ever interrupted her anymore. She looked up and saw Ethan Miller standing near the fence that separated their yards. He was taller than she remembered, broader, with a calm confidence that surprised her. He wore a simple gray hoodie and jeans, his sleeves rolled up like he had already been working. Ethan, her neighbor's son. He had grown up next door. Claire remembered him as a polite kid who used to wave shyly when she watered plants. The last time she had really seen him, he'd been a teenager, leaving for college. Now he looked like a man. I hope this isn't weird, Ethan said, scratching the back of his neck. My mom said you've been trying to fix up the garden. I know my way around this stuff. Thought I'd ask. Claire stood slowly, brushing dirt from her gloves. She hadn't expected company. She hadn't expected him. That's kind of you, she said carefully. I'm just not very good at this anymore. Ethan smiled. Not the forced kind, but the easy kind that made people relax without knowing why. Gardens don't judge. They just wait. Something about that sentence settled inside her. If you don't mind, Claire said, I could really use the help. I don't mind at all, he replied. He grabbed his gloves and stepped into her yard like he belonged there. They started, working right away. Ethan trimmed the hedges with steady focus while Claire cleared space around the roses. The pace was quick, natural, no awkward pauses, no heavy silence. Just the sound of tools, birds, and occasional small talk. Ethan talked about being back home, about leaving a job in Vancouver that didn't feel right anymore, about how strange it was to return to a street that remembered you better than you remembered yourself. Claire listened more than she spoke. She liked the sound of his voice, calm, thoughtful, honest. It made the work easier. You always kept this place looking great, Ethan said at one point. Claire paused. My husband did most of it. Ethan nodded, respectful. He didn't rush to fill the space with words. He just let it exist. The sun climbed higher. Sweat formed at Claire's temples. Her muscles ached, but it felt good, real grounding. As they worked, Claire noticed small things. The way Ethan paid attention. The way he asked before moving anything important. The way he treated her not like someone fragile, but like someone capable. That mattered more than she expected. Near the old oak tree, Ethan stopped and looked around the yard. This place has good bones, he said. It just needs care. Like most things, Claire swallowed. She knew he wasn't just talking about the garden. She turned toward the roses. the same ones Mark had planted when they first moved in. Her hands shook slightly as she brushed soil away from their roots. "He loved these," he said quietly. "I know," Ethan replied. That surprised her. "How?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "He used to talk to my dad about them," said they. Reminded him that patience pays off. Claire closed her eyes for a second. They worked until the afternoon light softened. The garden looked different, now still imperfect, but alive. Claire hadn't realized how much she needed to see that as they cleaned up. Ethan leaned against the fence, quieter than before. "Claire," he said, dropping the polite distance for the first time, "can I ask you something?" Her heart skipped. She didn't know why. "Yes," she said. Ethan looked nervous now. Not like the confident man from earlier. Like someone standing at the edge of something important. "Do you ever feel like your life paused?" But the rest of the world kept going. Claire stared at him. That question hit too close. All the time she answered honestly. Ethan nodded slowly. "I feel that too." There was a long pause. The kind that stretches without breaking. Then Ethan took a breath and said something that made the air feel heavier. Deeper, more real. And Claire realized that this moment, this simple afternoon in a garden, was about to change something she thought had been settled long ago. The wind moved through the roses. Claire waited, not knowing if she was ready to hear what came next. The moment Ethan spoke, Claire felt the ground shift beneath her, not violently, but enough to make her realize she was no longer standing where she had been before. The garden was quiet, the late afternoon sun hanging low, and yet everything inside her felt loud. Ethan's words were simple, but they landed with weight. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't dramatize them. He said them like a truth he had carried longer than he meant to. Claire didn't answer right away. She couldn't. Years of control, of careful distance, of telling herself she was finished with complicated feelings pressed against her chest. She turned away, pretending to straighten her gloves, buying herself a few seconds to breathe. Ethan didn't rush her. He stepped back, giving her space, like someone who understood that silence could be kinder than explanations. "I'm not asking for anything," he said finally, softer now. "I just didn't want to leave this unsaid." Claire looked at him then, really looked, not as her neighbor's son, not as a memory from another life. It's a man standing in front of her, honest, uncertain, and brave enough to speak. "You don't know how much courage it takes to say that," she said. Ethan nodded. "I know it could be complicated. That's not even the hardest part," Claire replied. They stood there, the fence between their homes, no longer feeling like a line of safety, but like a reminder of how close and yet how separate they were. Claire took a step toward the roses. "Spent years learning how to be alone," she said. "Not just physically, emotionally. I told myself that chapter was closed." Ethan listened, his face serious. "And now, a tea. And now I'm not sure," she admitted. That honesty surprised her more than it surprised him. They didn't talk much after that. Ethan gathered his tools and thanked her for letting him help. Before leaving, he paused. "I'll still help with the garden," he said carefully, "if you want." Claire nodded. "It's like that." When he left, the house felt different. Not empty, expectant. That night, Claire didn't sleep well. Memories returned, not painfully, but clearly. Mark's laughter, its patience, its belief that love didn't run out to change shape. She wondered what he would say now. She wondered if she was allowed to feel alive again. The days that followed moved fast. Ethan came by in the evenings, sometimes to water plants, sometimes just to talk over the fence. Their conversations were light but meaningful. Books, travel, regrets, hope. Nothing crossed any line. Yet something kept growing quietly beneath. The surface, Claire noticed changes in herself. She dressed with more care. She laughed without forcing it. She caught herself looking forward to moments she hadn't planned. One evening, after a long day at work, she found Ethan sitting on the edge of the garden bed staring at the sky. "Rough day?" she asked. "Just thinking," he said. "Dangerous habit." He smiled. I was thinking about how some places make you feel like yourself again. Claire sat nearby. This garden. He nodded. And you. Her heart skipped. But he didn't push. He never did. That restraint mattered. Weeks passed. The garden bloomed. Neighbors noticed. Compliments followed. Claire smiled and thanked them, but inside, she knew the growth wasn't just in the soil. One afternoon, Claire's sister called from Seattle. You sound different, she said. Lighter. Claire hesitated, then told her part of the truth. Be careful, her sister warned gently. But don't shut the door just because it scares you. That night, Claire stood alone in the garden, the moon reflecting off the leaves. She realized something she had avoided admitting. She wasn't afraid of Ethan. She was afraid of hope. The next day, she made a decision, not a dramatic one, not a final one, just a step. When Ethan arrived, she invited him to sit. I need to be clear, she said. I don't know where this leads. I don't even know if it leads anywhere. Ethan nodded. I'm okay with not knowing. I can't promise anything. I'm not asking for promises. She met his eyes. But I don't want to pretend this didn't happen. Neither did he. From that day on, something shifted. They walked together sometimes. Shared meals, never alone, always respectful. Talked about boundaries, timing, reality. They moved slowly, carefully, like people who understood that real connection didn't need to rush. Claire felt stronger. For it, one evening as summer faded into early fall, Ethan stood at the gate. I might be leaving again, he said. Another job opportunity. Claire's chest tightened, but she didn't panic. You want to go? I don't know, he said honestly. I needed you to know. She nodded. Thank you for telling me. They stood in silence, understanding that life didn't pause just because something mattered. Before leaving, Ethan said quietly, meeting you reminded me that some things are worth coming back to. Claire watched him walk away, the garden glowing softly behind her. She didn't feel abandoned. She felt awake, okay? And for the first time in years, that was enough.